Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening to Wake Up, Look Up, a podcast where we connect events happening in real time to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Zach Wyrock. In today's episode, we're talking about school discipline, and we're asking, are classrooms too forgiving? This is prompted by an article I read by the Wall Street Journal's editorial board, which was pointing out that the Trump administration recently has been changing its strategy with how it restricts the kinds of disciplines that are available to schools. And as a result, several states, Texas, Arkansas, Washington, are pursuing more traditional methods of discipline in schools. It's been in vogue over the last 20 years or so for schools to use what's called restorative discipline. Restorative discipline puts the emphasis on coming alongside the offending child and kind of figuring out what's going on in them emotionally, mentally, so that you can help restore them to appropriate behavior. But traditional methods focus more on everyone else in the classroom. Hey, if you have a child who is acting out of turn, you need to remove them and isolate them, A, to reinforce the negative behavior will not be tolerated, and B, let the rest of the class keep moving. And this, according to the Wall Street Journal, is an interesting and important change, or at least return in policy that will affect us as a country. Now, it's important to note why states are doing this. Texas, for example, last year reported over 3,000 instances of educators being assaulted by students. This is, they say, a widespread problem prompted in part by restorative discipline, as educators are striving with offending children, many of whom become agitated and violent, and as well as holding up the classroom. So Texas is saying the right approach is removing that child, isolating them, and helping them in a way that's distant from the rest of the class. Arkansas has dropped its requirement for positive behavioral support, saying, hey, we're really not interested in restoring the offending party as much as we just want to move them, discipline them, and let the classroom keep moving. Critics of the more lenient approach are arguing that as a result, you're widening educational inequality, because in classrooms, particularly in lower income areas where all the emphasis is being put on restoring the offender, the rest of the class falls further and further behind. Well, this, for us, begs the question, how should we as Christians think about school discipline? And by the way, this matters whether you're a parent or not, because the kids who are growing up in our schools will be your future employees, your future employers, your neighbors, your colleagues. We reap what we sow as a society. And I'll tell you this, I believe the move back to a more corrective form of discipline is a good one. And here's why. The first reason is that the Bible time and time again affirms for us that God establishes authority. Romans 13 is the often cited passage where the Apostle Paul will say that there is no authority except from God. Children have to learn that in society there is authority, and authority is to be respected and it is to be heeded. Now, I understand we don't want to push the pendulum to fear. We don't want to teach kids to fear those in authority, but I worry that the restorative, quote unquote, approach to discipline actually teaches the opposite. It teaches kids they're the authority, that their felt needs, that their desire to act out is actually what's driving school policy, instead of them butting up against authority and finding that authority doesn't flinch. The other thing is the Bible tells us discipline is an act of love. Hebrews 12:6 says that the Lord disciplines those that he loves. In our culture, discipline is often seen as the antithesis of love, as the domineering result of adults who are disinterested in children. But the Bible tells us nothing could be further from the truth. A child who's not disciplined becomes a monster to themselves, to the classroom, and to the world. We don't want that for them, so we discipline them. It's an act of love. I'll tell you what else. The Bible repeatedly affirms justice for the innocent. Proverbs 31:8 says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves." I can tell you, as someone who in school experienced times of intense bullying, that if my teachers had put the emphasis on restoring the bully, it's me who would have suffered as a result. In those moments, what I needed were adults who went to bat for me, who understood I had a fundamental right to be safe in school, to actually be given the opportunity to learn. What gets left out of the restorative conversation is that there are other students in the classroom who are suffering if we put the emphasis on the offender instead of the kids that are just there to learn. We also have to teach kids that sin has consequences. The Bible says whatever one sows, they also will reap. If kids learn that they can consistently push boundaries and defy authority without consequence, they will develop the muscle of defying authority. And it won't be the school. They'll grow up and it will be the police. It will be their employer. It will be their community. And the result will be that we all suffer. Sin has consequences. It's important for all of us that we understand that. The other thing is that peace should be our goal in the school, and peace requires action. When Jesus says in Matthew 5:9, "Blessed are the peacemakers," you shouldn't read that as inherently those who avoid conflict. Sometimes conflict, in this case with an offending student, is the only way to get peace for everyone else. Now, listen, I know this begs the question about the adults who are doing the disciplining, and you and I shouldn't be putting our kids in school systems and with educators that we don't trust. That's a different podcast episode. But teachers and administrators have to be able to deal with unruly students for the good of the school. And if we don't get serious about that, then it's we who will pay the price societally in the future. I'm glad schools are taking discipline seriously. And I think in 20 years, we all will be glad. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Wake Up, Look Up. If you enjoyed it, please help us get the word out by sharing it with someone you think might benefit from it. And while you're here, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get further content, or even download the CCC app, where you'll find even more resources to help you grow in your faith and relationship with Jesus Christ.